Thank you for joining. The annual meeting will begin in approximately 1 minute. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Chevron Federal Credit Union's 2024 annual meeting. My name is Darren Ravenel, Vice President of Learning and Development, and I will be your moderator today. Now, many of you have joined the meeting online, and several of you are here in person. Whichever method you chose, we're thankful to have you here. Those attending remotely are already in a listen-only mode, and for those in the room, if you have not done so already, please silence your phones, watches, and other devices for the duration of the meeting. Now, during the registration process, you were invited to ask a question. We'll answer many of those questions today towards the end of this meeting, and you'll also be able to ask questions today, which we will field as many of them as time will allow. Remote attendees, please submit your questions using the Q&A feature within Zoom, and our in-person attendees will use the Q&A forms that are at each table. Simply hand those to one of our greeters, and they will bring them up to me. This meeting is being recorded, and we'll post a link to the recording on the Credit Union website by the weekend. We have reached a quorum, so to kick us off, I have the privilege of introducing David Andrade, Board Chair for Chevron Federal Credit Union. David, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Darren. I'm very pleased to be here with you all tonight. Thank you for joining us. As Darren said, my name is David Andrade. I'm the chair of the board. I've been a member of the credit union for the past 13 years, and 15 years actually, and 13 years I've spent on the board. I've had the pleasure of serving on the board. I'm joined tonight by John Berlin, the president and CEO of the credit union, here with me in the room, and also Shay Finley, the chair of our supervisory committee, who's participating via Zoom. As Darren said, we have, I think we had over 250 people register. We're very pleased to have the opportunity to speak and connect directly with members. And we have about 30 or so folks in the room with us here today too, which is nice. The agenda for today, very similar to our format from last year. We'll start with an approval of the 2023 annual meeting minutes. We'll then have, John will share some remarks in terms of the credit union's recent financial performance and our ongoing initiatives to improve member service. Shay will join us to provide a report out from the Supervisory Committee on the control environment and financial health of the credit union. We'll then proceed with the election of directors to 3 board vacancies, and we'll conclude with Q&A, as Darren said. So the first item of business is the approval of the minutes from the 2023 meeting. I'm going to, in a moment, you'll be able to see those on screen. These were also made available to members about a month ago through the credit union's website. In order to leave more time for Q&A, I'm going to make a motion to waive the reading of the minutes from the 2023 meeting. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll now take a vote on the waiving of the reading of the minutes. Darren will share on screen, for those of you participating in Zoom, the option to vote on the motion, and then we'll take a poll here in the room as well.
Now, while the remote attendees are voting via Zoom, I'm going to poll the in-person audience. So all those in favor of waiving the reading of last year's minutes, I'm going to ask if you can please raise your hand and keep it raised while I take it down. Thank you. And all opposed, please raise your hand and keep it raised. And all those that abstain from the vote.
We'll just give a minute for folks to vote online.
All right, the ayes have it, and the motion is adopted.
Thank you, Darren. Now, I will now make a motion to approve the minutes from the 2023 meeting. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. We'll take another vote now. Again, you'll have the option to vote on screen for those who are participating virtually, and we'll take a poll here in the room as well.
So again, while the remote attendees are voting via Zoom, I will poll the in-person audience. All those approving last year's minutes, please raise your hand and leave them raised. And all those opposed? And all those that abstain? The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted.
Thank you, Darren. With that housekeeping item out of the way, John and I are going to make a few remarks. Before I turn it over to John, just on behalf of the board, I just want to start by reminding everyone we're here to serve you, our members. We're a nonprofit organization. We don't have external shareholders, so we have one purpose here. There's no conflict. It's just to provide the most value to the membership. Broadly speaking, the board has three priority areas. One is always on the safety and soundness of the institution. John will talk a little bit more about that. The credit union is one of the largest at $5 billion in assets, is one of the largest and strongest financial institutions in the credit union space in the country. We are focused on value, right? I talked about us being a nonprofit institution. Our goal is to provide value back to members. The way we do that is primarily through having competitive rates for deposits, paying high interest rates compared to peers, and providing competitive rates on loans. Again, the comparison here is to other alternatives. We don't use fees as a source of income, right? Our purpose here is to be here for the membership, and so that's not part of the operating model at all. In terms of member service, I would say over the last 5 years, this has been an area, it's always been important, but it's taken a renewed focus, I guess, from the board and from the management team. We've really been focused on seeing our goal not just to provide value in terms of the dollars, but also in terms of the ease of doing business with us. And John will talk about a number of the initiatives we've completed in 2023 and some of those that we have underway in 2024 to improve the member experience.
Thanks very much, Dave. Let's start out by just giving a little bit of a brief overview of what we're about as a credit union. This will be a couple of slides. I'm going to start with one of the things we're really excited about in 2023 was updating our mission and vision. So here you can see what our mission is about, and it's centered around what we do for members, and there's also centered around what we do for our core sponsors. And at the core of what we do for our members is what it says here, to guide them to achieve their financial goals and aspirations throughout every stage of their lives. That's what we're all about. And then similarly, our vision is all about just realizing that mission. So we'll be the premier and most trusted financial services provider for our members and the sponsor communities that we serve. So that's what we're here to do at the highest level. In terms of what we do for members, a lot of different benefits, but I would say three rise to the top. And those are what's listed on this slide. Personalized service that makes members feel valued and appreciated, convenience and making the experience very easy and streamlined for members, and value. Dave talked about great rates, low fees. We don't use fees as to generate income. Those are really the three core things that we do every day for members. So talking about convenience, one of the ways that we are very convenient is where our locations are and the locations that members can access. So in terms of our locations, we have 20 branches throughout the country, which are located conveniently at Chevron and Bechtel sites primarily. And then beyond that, we have a lot more sites that you can go to. And so, for example, through our co-op network of shared branches, there are over 5,000 shared branches across the country that you can do most of your types of branch transactions. And then there's about 85,000 ATMs across the country where you can make transactions that are surcharge free. Now, of course, you don't have to go to the branches to have a convenient experience. And couple of things. For example, we have our 24/7 call center. We'll talk in a minute about record member experience that we had in the call center, and we've really invested very heavily in that member experience. Also, digital. So our goal is to have you be able to ultimately do almost anything that you can do in a branch or in the call center through digital, whether it's online or mobile banking. So we're investing very heavily in digital banking. Talked about core sponsors. Core sponsors are part of both our mission and vision, and we hold numerous events and activities in developing, cultivating relationships with our sponsors throughout the year at Chevron and Bechtel, both to appreciate our members and also to raise awareness among the employee populations and attract new ones who might be interested. These pictures show just some examples of that we're doing throughout the year. Let me talk for a minute about some of the highlights for 2023. I'm going to start with probably my favorite one, which is the member experience, because that's really the reason why we're here. And we take member feedback very, very seriously, and we have an extensive survey program. Many of you, I'm sure, have been surveyed in your different experiences with the credit union. And we look very carefully at, we're focused on that first one, excellent, excellent service. For the purpose of this slide, I'm showing excellent and very good. And you can see, we're in the high 90s for most and in the 90s for all of those surveys. And several of these represented record years for these. So we're very excited about that. We're not stopping. We always have a lot of, we focus on the things that we need to improve, but I am excited to take a second to celebrate the success. In terms of value, one of the things that Dave talked about, deposit rates. So even today, we're top of the line pricing for both our money market, the Market Edge account, and our CDs. On this page, you can see we're still offering up to you can get as high as 4% of the money market. We were really pleased to be awarded with Newsweek's annual Best Credit Union Money Market account. So out of all the credit unions in the country, we were rated as the best credit union money market account. Safety and stability. Dave also mentioned one of our top priorities. One of the ways that we look at that and measure that is what our capital ratio is. And capital ratio as a percentage of net worth. Capital ratio measures essentially our reserves or our net worth as a percentage of assets. At the end of last year, that ratio was 13%. That was far above our peer credit union average that you can see on this slide at 9%. And it was nearly double what our regulators, the NCUA, National Credit Union Administration, considers to be a well-capitalized credit union, which is 7%. We, in the service of achieving our goals, including the personalized service and convenience and streamlining, we invest heavily in technology. One of the many things that we invested in 2023 was launching our new consumer lending system. And what's exciting about that is you can see on this page, it starts here with entering your cell phone number, and then the system does most of the work from there. Not all, but much of the work. And it really leads to a very easy and streamlined experience for members. And we've been pleased to receive a lot of very positive feedback from members since the rollout of that new system. Another thing that was exciting about in 2023 was the launch or upgrading of 3 branches that you can see listed here. And if you look at the pictures, one of the commonalities here is that they're very open, welcoming environments, and they're designed to do that, to facilitate the personalized and in-depth conversations that we aspire to have with members. And then finally, in 2023, another big milestone was welcoming the former Chevron Texaco Employees Credit Union, or CTECU, and their 1,300 members, and that also brought to the credit union $22 million in assets. So let's talk about 2024, looking ahead. And we're almost a third of the way into 2024. So a lot of this is very much in progress, or is some of it's happened. So we talked about in 2023 the new consumer lending system. We're also doing the same thing for the new mortgage system, a new state-of-the-art mortgage system that will greatly streamline the member experience. Proud to say that we actually have some, begin piloting that as we speak. There's some live loans that are going through this new system. We expect to have a full rollout within the next month for that system. The other thing that we're investing heavily in technology, so protecting your accounts and protecting against fraud. So one of the things that we're doing there is what's called biometric authentication, and that provides, if you think of, you're matching your driver's license or some form of identification and taking a picture with your phone when you're doing a high-risk transaction. Much higher level of protection, on top of what we already have, a very secure platform. But that's just one example that we are already in contract with a vendor, and we expect to roll that out later this year. And the intent of that is before you do some high-risk transactions, such as sending a wire, that you would do something like this and just get that extra layer of protection. We got more branch upgrades on the way. These probably look a little bit familiar with the other pictures I showed you. Two of these have been completed. So the first two are in Houston, the City West branch at a Bechtel location in Houston, and the Houston Allen branch, which is in downtown Houston, where all the Chevron offices are. We're about a month away from launching the new San Ramon branch, which is being done to coincide with and move with Chevron's new office building. And you can see the same open, welcoming environments like the ones I mentioned for 2023. So I'm going to stop there. Lots of exciting things. We chose a few. There are lots more, but lots of very exciting things that are for us. And now I'm going to turn it over to Shay Finley, the chair of the Credit Union Supervisory Committee, for some remarks.
Thanks, John. My name is Shay Finley, and I'm the chair of the Supervisory Committee. I've been a member of Chevron Federal Credit Union for over 4 years and have served on the Supervisory Committee for the past 2 years. The Supervisory Committee engages independent firms to perform the annual financial statement audit and other necessary audits. The 2023 financial statement audit resulted in an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that financial statement auditors provide. The Supervisory Committee meets regularly with credit union internal audit staff as well as our external auditors to monitor the state of internal controls of the credit union and to ensure that your assets are safeguarded. Based on the results of the internal audits and external reviews for the year 2023, we conclude that Chevron Federal Credit Union has adequate internal controls and is financially sound. David, turn the mic back to you.
Thanks, Jay. We have one more formal item of business before we move into Q&A, which is the election of directors. There are 3 vacancies to fill this year. A special nominating committee has nominated 3 individuals listed on the screen: Will Fleming, Alice Flesher, and Marla Wright. No nominations were received via petition. Consequently, these folks are elected by general consent. No vote is required. So with that, we can move to Q&A.
Okay, so with that, before we jump into Q&A, we've already got one that's in the virtual Q&A box, and we've got a few people who've asked if the two of you could speak up a bit more.
Right.
So
We'll do our best.
So there you go. So we're already head out the gate. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and get us started with a few of the questions that we've got from the crew. So give me just a second here. All right, our first question involves savings and investments. How would you assess the market rate environment to keep Chevron Federal Credit Union's certificate rates competitive?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll take that. I think our approach on rates is not really dependent upon the market environment. Going back to my opening comments, our mission here is to provide value back to members, and one of the primary ways we do that is by providing rates that you can reliably and consistently, they're reliably and consistently high compared to peers. So irrespective of really what happens with interest rates, that's our philosophy. And I think that's what you'll see we have done for a very, very, very long time.
And what do you anticipate for interest rates, including what the credit union pays for its deposit accounts?
Yeah, okay, sure. Well, we don't come up with our independent forecasts of market rates. We don't have the crystal ball, but we do look to the market. We look at the Treasury yield curve and market signals for that. And you know, depending on the day, and the rate environment's been you know, going up and down a little bit recently. There's some thought in the market that there'll be, you know, at this point, 1 or perhaps 2 rate cuts for the rest of the year. Of course, that expectation can change. But kind of like Dave said, you know, our strategy is just kind of all weather, is that we're going to be providing top of the line rates, you know, regardless of what the market environment is, and so we will adjust accordingly, but be highly competitive.
Obviously, there's two sides to this coin, but you know, one of the big changes over the past 18 months or so is that rates in the economy are a little bit higher. And as a depositor, that's been nice because we've been able to give rates on deposits and CDs that we haven't seen in a very long time. There's the other side of that coin. You know, rates are a little bit high, means mortgages rates are also up as well. But on both sides of that, we're trying to be positioning the credit union to be very competitive versus other alternatives.
Okay, very good. We do still have some requests if you can speak a little bit more. And John, perhaps your mic might be tucked a little bit behind your jacket.
All right. Hopefully that's better.
Okay. All right. Next question we've got are around high yield investment opportunities. People are wondering what high yield investment opportunities might be available at the credit union.
I think the 2 places I guess I would think when I hear that question would be, one, our CDs. CDs rates right now are up near
Close to 5.
close to
yeah.
5%. And then John highlighted our money market accounts, which we're really pleased to see that award from Newsweek. Those rates are, as John said, up to about 4%.
Okay. So how about profit sharing? Does the credit union share its profits with members?
I'll take this one too. So, I mean, yeah, like I said at the beginning, we're a nonprofit and our members are the owners. So we have some level of retained earnings that's necessary to mitigate risk. And John talked about our capital ratio. But essentially everything beyond that is something that we're looking to provide back to the members. We don't have shareholders, so that excess is something we're going to give back through deposit rates. You know, again, having higher deposit rates and through loan rates as well.
So mortgage interest rates on the existing loans are low, and the credit union is raising interest rates that we pay out. Isn't that a problem?
Well, fortunately, it's something that we plan for. This is classic interest rate risk management. So it's not a problem. It's something that we focus on all the time. For context, the interest rates, have risen by over 5 percentage points over the past couple of years. And so what that does, as the question alludes to, is that our costs rise faster than our revenue increase, because our deposit rates follow the market faster than our loan portfolio, which is largely long-term mortgages reprices. So what happens is our margin narrows. Now, the good thing is that we have a very, very robust interest rate risk management program where we were throughout the year purchasing interest rate derivatives. And what happens with those is that the value of those interest rate derivatives rises as interest rates rise. So it's sort of think of it as partial insurance against what happens when our margin narrows. So, and it's very cyclical. So as rates return to normal levels, and as time goes on, we return to sort of more normal levels. So to answer the question directly, if there's a problem, not a problem. It definitely does shrink our margin for a period of time, but it's something that we have a dedicated team that focuses on that. We've got a asset management committee that includes experts in Chevron and Bechtel to manage this very topic throughout the year very successfully.
It's a big focus area, and it always has been. I mean, we're one of the first credit unions to employ a program like this. We've got a lot of experience. So the rates are going to move, and this is the primary thing that we need to worry about. We've got great people, we've got great support from the sponsors, and we're in a really strong position, as you saw. We've already lived through a very large interest rate shock over the past 18 months, and our net capital ratio, as John said, is double what the regulators consider well capitalized.
So we have a few questions relating to safety and security. What is being done to prevent data breaches?
I'll take that. Tremendous amount. And I would say we have a comprehensive strategy that's focused in a couple primary areas. One is detecting unauthorized access to our systems, and then also protecting that data and information is not taken out by unauthorized actors. So, and just many systems at work in real time, constantly scanning every part of our technical infrastructure to identify potential threats and help disposition them. It's really a combination of extensive investment in technology, processes, and people. We also have an extensive independent testing program to validate that what we're doing is working, basically. We've got a dedicated team of cybersecurity experts, and we also have a board subcommittee on cybersecurity composed of some experts from Chevron and Bechtel who also provide additional advisory role.
And on fraud prevention, what are you doing to increase security on CFCU accounts?
Okay, yeah, a lot as well. It's a big area of focus, both cybersecurity and fraud management. Big areas of focus. A little bit similar nature that we have a lot of different systems that are detecting in real time potentially anomalous behavior, identifying bad actors. We've got a dedicated fraud team, which is investigating all the time, investigating things that are being identified by these many different systematic solutions. We're investing in technology, a lot of different technology, including what I mentioned earlier in terms of biometric authentication. There's a number of other things that we're doing there as well.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about risk management, and we've talked about it, and we've hit on a couple of these questions, there are three areas of big focus. One is interest rate risk management. The other is cyber, right? That's not going away as a risk, factor in fraud.
So we have a few questions around member benefits. What are other benefits available to members other than mortgages and loans?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I mean, one obvious one is, you look to our CDs on the deposit side, the money market account that I referenced earlier. We do some things that, benefit pockets of the membership, folks who are under relocation that's been being pushed forward by their employer. We provide some benefits in those situations. And for young savers, we have a savings account that offers a 7% interest rate up to the first $1,000 to encourage, children to develop the skills that they'll need to manage their own financial health going forward, just to name a few.
Now, many of our members use direct deposit. Some have asked if members get early direct deposit access to their funds.
Okay. So they do, as long as the employer sends us the data, the payroll data in advance. If that's the case, and Chevron Corporation does that, so Chevron would be part of this. You would get your access to funds a day in advance of the official payroll date. So definitely Chevron employees and then other employers who send the data over early.
Now, will there ever be benefits for business owners?
So this is a good question. This is something the board has talked about from time to time through the years. I can't say that we would never do it, but our focus right now is sort of our bread and butter, which is kind of the consumer offerings that we have. But it is something that the board periodically has considered.
And on the topic of safety and stability, we have a two-part question here. Are the banks stable and healthy in this economy? And how does the credit union ensure our funds are safe?
Sure. Well, I don't want to comment on the other banks. That's why for others to comment. But just in terms of safety and stability, just a lot of areas of focus that just ensure, one, we talked about our capital ratio, so being very prudent with our management and having the right level of reserves. Interest rate risk management is really probably the central one with safety and stability. And we talked before about just the discipline that we have around managing that key risk. Talked about the other risks, cybersecurity, fraud risk, which is very critical for safety and stability. I should also say liquidity risk, so just having enough funds on hand and deposits. It's been for banks and credit unions overall in 2023 was a tough environment for deposits, and we actually fared well, we actually increased our deposits in a year when banks as a whole saw their deposits decline.
Yeah, if you think about, kind of the position we're in, we've highlighted the net capital ratio a couple times. Really the decision that we have is about how much to give back to members and when. We've been around for 80 years. We want to be around for another 80. We're conservative in terms of how we manage the balance sheet. We want to be, consistently giving back to members and along the lines that we talked about earlier. But we want to make sure that first and foremost, I said safety of the deposits is the most important thing. So we've taken an approach that I think positions us really well. I think we've had a really significant test over the past 18 months, as the rest of the world has with the rise in interest rates, and we've kind of passed with flying colors. So we're in a really, really strong place here.
So the question here is, what is the credit union's exposure in commercial real estate?
That's an easy one. Going back to the answer I gave a few questions ago, we don't have any exposure.
Okay. So clearly, we've got members with a presence all around the world. One wants to know if we have any plans to expand to Canada, or if we have a partner branch in Canada.
So really no immediate plans to expand to Canada, and there's obviously challenges to have a presence. We're doing banking in other countries. Now that said, we have members in Canada. We've got members all around the world. But in terms of expanding operations to specifically serve and have a presence in Canada, that really has not been on the horizon. Something I'll just say that we're always looking to open to opportunities that serve the needs of our members, that serve the needs of our sponsors. So it's not to say that we would kind of like small business that we would never do that. It just has not really made the radar.
Yeah, maybe the other thing I would share here is we're blessed to have members literally worldwide. I don't know how many other credit unions have as much of a presence outside of their home locations as CFCU does. So what that means is that there's a lot of incentive for us to provide good service to those folks as well. And while it may not be easy to access a branch, a lot of the things we're investing in is to try and make it as easy to do business with us through an online channel or through your mobile phone as it would be coming into a physical location. So yeah, I love going into the branch. They're great people. I'm in San Ramon branch. I always enjoy going and visiting, and I get great service, but we want to get that same level of experience for folks who are participating and transacting from a remote location.
So we've got a couple of questions that are around the topic of security, and specifically the data breach that occurred recently in 2023. So questions are around what was stolen and what can people do to prevent identity theft after such a breach. So if you can speak a little bit to what happened and how members can protect themselves.
Yeah, so I think it's referring to the Move It data breach, which happened over the summer, and this was something that at last count was numerous impacted thousands of companies, and I think the latest thing I saw was 70 or 80 million individuals. So it was just a worldwide event. We had responded, and actually responded very quickly compared to most institutions once we found out about this in August, and informed everyone of what their specific information that had been breached as part of this. Typically, there were some elements of some personal identifying information, whether it was a social security number or a date of birth or some things like that. We informed everyone specifically about that at the time. I think what everyone can do is just a couple things. One is there was the offer that we had for complimentary identity protection services that to all the members who had information that was breached. So we, really encourage people to sign up for those. And I think, in addition to all the things that I mentioned that we are doing on a just continual basis, it's just prudent, not just for protecting your information relative to the credit union, but just as a citizen of the world these days, because they're just threats all the time, with everywhere you park your data, to just be extremely vigilant about what you do with your information. One thing that is a common scam is people will try to take over an account, whether it's not necessarily a credit union, but any of your accounts anywhere, and try to send you a one-time passcode and try to get you to tell them what your passcode is. And we want to say, please never, never ever, if someone says they're representing the credit union, please never give them information like that. Always, hang up, call the known number you have for the credit union, and you will get someone who is a legitimate credit union person who will tell you to never give you that information.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, coming back to the question, I mean, there's things you can do with the credit agencies like Experian to put freezes on your credit, which is just a general thing. I think John's point, I mean, just to really emphasize that, we're not going to call you and ask you for your online passcode. We're not going to ask you for a one-time code. So whenever you're in doubt, I think call us. We take this security really seriously. As I said, this is one of the most important kind of areas of risk management for the credit union. We weren't happy about what happened with MoveIt, one of the vendors we used. I suppose there's some comfort in knowing that it impacted thousands of other organizations, but we don't want those sorts of things to happen. And I guess the last thing I would say is, for some of you, this is, if this was something that impacted you personally, you would have received communication. So you don't need to be concerned if you haven't heard from us.
So, in a similar vein, in the theme of security, one of our members has expressed a concern about security over SMS, aka text messages, and our use of that for multi-factor authentication. Concern is that text can be spoofed; it's not encrypted, and have suggested, beefing it up to other authentication programs. One specifically they mentioned was Authy. So the question really is if we have considered upgrading our authentication programs to things like Authy, Google Authenticator, etc.
Sure. So I'll start and I'll hand over to John. Let me just talk at a high level about this. Like I think I said earlier, this is an evolving space. So things are constantly changing, and we are very closely looking what's happening, and that includes both the new vectors that people use to commit fraud, and also the tools that evolve to manage it. So I'll let John speak a little bit about the specifics of the question, but just as a theme, this is an area, this is what we mean when we say this is kind of an evergreen topic. We're going to be always looking to see what are the bad actors doing and how best can we stop them from doing it.
Yeah, exactly. The answer is we're looking at a lot of different things. We always want a multi-layered approach. There's nothing that's perfect and completely bulletproof on its own. So we want multiple layers. An example, I talked about the biometric authentication. That's one of many things that we're doing now to add different defenses and different options for that. So yeah, absolutely, it's a continual effort to stay in front of the bad actors.
All right, so we've got one final question that we'll be addressing during this meeting. And in this case, I will say it is actually not a question, but it's really a comment from one of our members. And that is really, they're extending a welcome to our CPECU and CECU members, saying welcome, it's been a long time, and they're excited that they finally joined.
That's great. Thanks, Darren. So yeah, I guess that concludes Q&A. Before we move to adjourn, I just want to say a few things. First, I wanted to thank management, the management team here and the staff. There's many of them in the room with us for the day in and day out dedication to our mission. And we talked a lot about our aspirations. You guys make it real. Secondly, I want to thank our many volunteers. So John spoke a little bit about this, but our board subcommittees, we have local advisory councils that are comprised of employees of Chevron and Bechtel and retirees from those organizations. They contribute a lot of expertise to help us deliver on our mission to manage some of the risks that we've talked about. So I want to thank them for their support. And lastly, I want to thank you, our members. Really appreciate you joining us here today, and very glad to have you as part of the CFCU family. That concludes the 2024 meeting.
And we're off.